Hello, this is Joy News Prime. Welcome. My name is Ernest Manu. Coming up tonight, Finance Ministry reveals government has spent close to 450 million Ghana cedis on the construction of the National Cathedral. You have details of Ken Ofori-Atta's response to the queries of the ad hoc committee considering the vote of censure. Also, Minority predicts further hardship for Ghanaians as the alleged government intends to introduce new taxes, including a 2.5% in VAT in tomorrow's budget.
The budget that is due to be read tomorrow promises to be a budget full of taxes. In fact, what we are hearing is that this government intends to increase VAT by 2.5%.
We'll hear from them, but the Minority leader, Harun Idrisu, says his side feels betrayed by the U-turn of the NPP MPs on Ken Ofori-Atta.
As far as we are concerned, public opinion is not supportive and favorable to the continued stay in office, beleaguered lame duck Minister for Finance, the Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta. We feel let down and we feel betrayed by the majority caucus.
Talks between the government and labor unions for an increment in base pay ended inconclusively. The union rejects government's 15% offer, describing it as a drop in the ocean.
It's nothing to write home about. It's a drop in the ocean. What government have offered is nothing.
One, salaries are not good, other conditions of service are not the best. So people take their bags and they are off to other countries.
After we have tabled our proposal and government also gave his proposal, we are still the same way we are.
Also coming up here on Joy News Prime, many girls continue to use rags, old newspapers and notebooks as menstrual towels because of the high cost of sanitary pads. So what happened to government's promise to scrap the taxes on sanitary pads?
Will eliminate import duties on sanitary pads to improve health conditions, particularly for girls.
Many thanks for choosing us. I'm Ernest Manu. The details now. Documents from the Finance Ministry to the ad hoc committee considering claims against the Finance Minister in the minority censure motion reveal government has spent close to 450 million Ghana cedis on the construction of the National Cathedral. That is a total of monies released for the building itself and payments to the architect. John Hughes has secured a copy of the document. My colleague and editor, Araba Kumsin, joins me in the studio with details. But first, let me bring you the letter written to the Finance Minister from the ad hoc committee. And that letter says the proceedings of the committee on Friday, 18 November 2022 refers. And it goes on to say the committee wishes to bring to the attention of the Honourable Minister that at the sitting of the committee on the above-mentioned date, the Honourable Minister agreed to furnish the committee with the following information. 1. The total amount spent by Government of Ghana on the National Cathedral to date, the amount paid to the consultant firm and the architect, specifically Messrs. Sir David Ajayi and Associates, in relation to the National Cathedral project. Clarification on the total energy sector payment to IPPs, the amount of 937 million contained in the official report of 4 June 2021, and the figure of 17 billion contained in the minister's response to the grounds from the proponents of the motion. The total debt accumulated prior to the year 2020. And that is signed by Mr. Puamang, who is clerk to the committee. And so John Hughes has secured details of the Finance Ministry's response to the committee as far as these issues are concerned. But I want to highlight the National Cathedral because that played up very strongly at the committee with Okujeto Ablakwa and Zanetta Rollins leading in the questioning. Araba Kumsin, kindly give us details of how much you are learning now government has spent so far as far as the cathedral is concerned.
Per the Finance Minister's Ministry's letter, it reads, with respect to the total amount expended on the National Cathedral, the National or the Cathedral Secretariat can provide the details of payments made. So total releases made by this ministry, that is the Finance Ministry, as of 31st March 2022, March this year, stands at 339,003,064 Ghana cedis, 86 pesos. Let me read that again. 339,003,064 Ghana cedis, 86 Ghana pesos. So that's shy of 400,000 Ghana cedis.
So that is for the building itself.
Right.
Then it goes on to give the details on how much has been advanced to Sir David Ajayi and Associates.
Right. So it says, with regards to the amount paid to the consulting firm Messrs. Sir David Ajayi and Associates in relation to the cathedral project, releases made by the ministry is in the total amount of 113,040,564 Ghana cedis, 86 Ghana pesos.
Right.
That is 113,040,564 Ghana cedis, 86 Ghana pesos, and it proceeds to provide a breakdown of the amount in a table provided.
Right. So the total of that is what gives you close to 450 million Ghana cedis. So if you're joining us tonight and wondering how much government has spent so far on the National Cathedral, the amount you're learning today from the Finance Ministry is nearly 450 million Ghana cedis for the project. That's how much government has put into the project. But let's look at the response they also gave to the issue of they needed some clarity on the debts to the IPPs. Indeed,
the Finance Ministry letter states the ministry would like to clarify the total energy sector payment to IPPs at the amount of $937 million contained in the official report of the 4th June 2021 or 17 June according to the Hansard, and the figure of $17 billion contained in the minister's response to the grounds from the proponents of the motion as follows. The Ministry of Finance paid a total amount of 17.31 billion over the period 2017 to 2020 to IPPs and fuel suppliers as shortfall in capacity power payments and excess capacity. The following 6 IPPs received the said payments, namely AXA, Car Power, Sen Power, Ameri Energy, Suno Nasogli, and Amandi Energy. Now, it proceeds to say that out of the 17.31 billion paid, Ghana cedis paid, an amount of 10.01 billion cedis was paid to power producers in relation to shortfall in capacity payments and excess capacity, with the remaining amount of 7.31 billion cedis being payments to fuel suppliers, that's gas suppliers and LCO and HFO suppliers for the period.
Arba, thank you very much indeed for bringing us those details. But let's stay in Parliament, because the minority says tomorrow's budget will exacerbate the sufferings of Ghanaians as the alleged government intends to introduce a litany of taxes. Speaking to journalists, member of the Finance Committee, Thomas Ampemnyako, claimed that government will increase the VAT rate to 20% from the current 17.5%. Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kweku Asante looks ahead to tomorrow's budget presentation in the following report.
In Parliament had been hoping they will get the support of their NPP colleagues to remove Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta through a vote of censure. It appears they will not get that now after the NPP MPs beat a retreat and decided to allow the embattled Ken Ofori-Atta read the budget. Leader of the minority say they feel betrayed.
President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo will go down in history under the Fourth Republic as the president who most disrespected public opinion. Because as far as we are concerned, public opinion is not supportive and favorable to the continued stay in office of his failing, beleaguered lame dark minister for finance, the Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta. We feel let down and we feel betrayed by the majority caucus, who have shown no wit in supporting us with our impeachment process within the letter and spirit of Article 82 of the 1992 Constitution. It is a step on oversight and parliamentary oversight, and it only weakens Parliament in exercising its oversight in calling ministers to order.
But ahead of the budget tomorrow, Ghanaians should brace for more hardship.
The information we are picking up doesn't look good for our dear country. The budget that is due to be read tomorrow promises to be a budget full of taxes. In fact, what we are hearing is that this government intends to increase VAT by 2.5%. They intend to increase income taxes, and they intend to remove a lot of exemptions on Momo. So even merchants are going to be subjected to Momo taxes. We have known this government to be insensitive, but we never knew that their level of insensitivity will be this high.
Meanwhile, NPP MP for Kaikwe Central, Patrick Boama, says he expects Ken Ofori-Atta to present a budget of hope.
That's all Ghanaians expect.
The minority say they will not support this new raft of taxes that the alleged government is introducing tomorrow, particularly the 2.5% VAT increase. This will move VAT from the current 17.5% to 20%. All these new taxes will be rejected, just like they did the e-levy last year, but which was eventually passed. But the House is expected to be tested tomorrow when Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta presents the 2023 budget. Despite getting the 98 NPP MPs to back down on their demand not to have him present the budget, the minority are poised to give him a hard time tomorrow in the House. For Joy News, Kweku Asante, Parliament House, Accra.
And the new Patriotic Party caucus in Parliament has been urged by the party's executive to stand down their demand for the removal of the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, till after the presentation of the budget and after it has been appropriated. Now, this follows a meeting with the caucus on November 22 to find an amicable solution to the impasse in the NPP parliamentary group. Some 98 NPP MPs have been demanding the immediate removal of the finance minister, accusing him of economic mismanagement. But with a changing stance of some majority members, will they listen to the party or stick to their own convictions?
Had occasions to defend allegations of conflicts of interest, lack of confidence, trust against the leadership of our finance ministry. The recent developments within our economy are of great concern to the greater majority of members of our caucus and our constituents. We have made our grave concern to the President through the parliamentary leadership and the leadership of the party without any positive response. We are by this medium communicating our strong desire that the President change the Minister of Finance and the Minister of State in the Finance Ministry without further delay in order to restore hope into the financial sector and reverse the downward trend in the growth of the economy. Meanwhile, we want to serve notice, and notice hereby served, that until such persons as aforementioned are made to resign or removed from office, we, members of the majority caucus here in Parliament, will not participate in any business of government by or for the President by any other minister.
However much that you heard us speaking the last 2 weeks, that based upon the intervention of the President, we would have to see the Minister of Finance do his work, read budget, see through appropriation, and then the President will act. Over a few days, we've had the Finance Minister speaking. And his speaking is informed majority of us in the caucus. Not only to state that we are back to the original position that we took. And that original position is to say that the Minister of Finance will not be the one who must read the budget and must not be the one who will do the appropriation. We are here this morning to say that this is going to be very soon for you to see the position of us. And we are going to be positively defiant on that posture until that action is taken. However, we are are not going to support the cause of the NDC in the chamber this morning. The cause of the NDC is premised on falsehood, propaganda, and reasons that are not justifiable. Their position might look like ours, but it's not the same. You will not be able to come to the chamber to level 10 issues that borders on criminality over a person who is not there to defend himself.
And since then, we've seen a number of U-turns and also developments from the party. Last night, we were at the Alisa Hotel where the party met the MPs at the instance of the president. We learned from a source. Head of our political desk, Evans Mensah, joins me in the studio with some analysis on this. Evans, it appears that the finance minister will read the budget. Not just that, it appears he will get the audience of the minority, including the majority, I should say, including the 98 MPs. What signals does this send, and if you want, the implications for the MPs and the party?
I mean, as for the MPs, they significantly have lost credibility, possibly in the eyes, definitely in the eyes of their constituents, and then in the eyes of the general public, because this is the third U-turn they've done on this very matter. I mean, the first time when they held the press conference, that it was an unprecedented move. Yeah. It also, because it's so unprecedented, that their U-turn becomes even more pronounced because of the momentum he gathered and the general applause he received from right-thinking members of society, civil society, everybody else, for an incumbent party MPs to stand up against their president and say, sack somebody. And then they met the president. They come back with a U-turn. That was the first one. Yeah. And then we had Kenneth Friata say, well, that he is intending to be in charge until the economic crisis is over. That triggered another U-turn, which is we've gone back to our original position. Right. And then the meeting yesterday, they've made another U-turn. When you flip-flop like they've done, the only thing that leaves you with a tattered reputation when it comes to credibility. And that's what they've suffered. Politically, it will cost some of them going forward. Also because, that is, if they stick with what they've done. And remember, although the statement has been issued and signed by Anodom Pre, who is the majority whip, and the party's general secretary, there's still a vote of censure that's going to happen post the budget tomorrow, likely on a Friday, right? And that's going to be by a secret ballot. Possibly, some of them can still vote with the majority side because it's in secret. And tonight, the minority side, they are invoking memories of the election of the speaker, where we know that the current speaker, Bambabing, nobody gave him any chance of winning. Right. But somebody from the majority side voted with them. Now, they are invoking that and saying, possibly that's going to happen tomorrow. So the jury's still out. Whether when it comes to the vote of censure, they will play the party line still, knowing that it's still a secret ballot, or they will vote with the majority. But it's all about strategy. What strategy the majority side adopts in terms of the party's whip on them? Is it to allow them to stay on the floor of chamber while the vote is happening, or ask them to leave the chamber? If the whip system that the party is applying says, leave the chamber, don't participate, which means that any majority member who is found on the floor is assumed to be voting for the motion, which is remove Kenneth Friata. The consequence of that is the party, if the party applies a 3-line whip, the effect of that is if you violate the party's position, the party can expel you from the party. If the party expels you, you would lose your seat. Okay, but then the question is, if the NDC need 48 MPs to vote with them to win, to get Kenneth Friata removed through the vote of censure. The question is, if, let's say 50 of them vote, can the party afford to expel 50 MPs?
But can the party even afford to lose a single member, given the numbers in Parliament, going forward for government business? That in itself, it depends. Would be a check on the party.
No, it depends. If the seat is in
it's a safe seat.
It's a safe seat and it's in the Ashanti region, for example, they can and then do a by-election there and they hope that they will win again. But that is the risk the majority members face. And I guess there's a reason. But we haven't heard from the 98 members themselves. We've heard we've seen a statement signed by Anodompre, who, by the way, was not a member of the 98 and the party's general secretary, right? And so far, the 98 members have been quiet. I think I've heard somebody suggested that the PRQB has spoken somewhere else.
Right.
Publicly, they possibly will say they will go with the party position, but that's what.
But if that is put to a vote, then we do not know how this will pan out. So let's see how this turns out on Friday. Evans, thank you very much. That's head of our political desk, Evans Mensah. Let's do some other stories here on Joy News. Parliament talks between government and labor unions for an increment in base pay ended inconclusively. Labour is asking government to increase the base pay by 60% for the 2023 working year. Joy News has learned that government offered to pay 15% from the initial 12% proposed, but the unions have rejected this offer, describing it as a drop in the ocean. Michael Ashile has been on this beat and brings us the very latest.
The labour unions, together with government, have met at least 3 times in the last 7 days. The unions are asking for at least 60% increment in their base pay for the 2023 working year. What we understand is that government is only offering to pay 15%. Initially, it said 8, now 10, 12, and now settled at 15. The labour unions have rejected the 15% offer as well.
We adjourned to today, thinking that today you make progress, but there has not been progress today. Yes, when we are negotiating, whether you frown your face or you smile, the objective is for you to get what you want. When you smile, you can get it. When you frown your face, you can also get it. So we are smiling because we know you will ultimately get what you want. After we have tabled our proposal, and government also gave his proposal, we are still the same way it is to be there. But for now, we haven't reached deadlock. We expect that government will go and seek fresh mandate properly and come back and we meet. Labour doesn't read budgets. The budget is not for Labour. The budget is for the government. It's government who read the budget. Labour doesn't read budget. So whether it will be read or not, that one is not my concern.
Where government is vis-a-vis our 60% proposal is neither here nor there. And as we've said earlier on, the 60% we've actually come down from about 140% to the 60%. And even if the 60% is granted, if you take out the 40.4% inflation as it exists currently, it means we are asking for just about 19%, very minimal salaries. Over the years, we've compromised and compromised. There is no money, there is no money. It's the song government sing all the time. And this time they are singing the same song, there is no money. And it is because every year they come and they say there is no money, and then we give them the benefit of the doubt. That is what have landed us to where we are today. But we are telling them and assuring our members that they should remain resolute, and that for this year's negotiation, we are not going to give in to any semantics, any gymnastics that the government will do.
What would you describe what the government has already offered you? What would you describe it as?
It's nothing to write home about. It's a drop in the ocean. What government have offered is nothing at all to write home about.
Some needy basic school girls are using rags, old newspapers and notebooks to hold their menstrual periods as teachers call for a government policy to deal with sanitary pads for students across the country. Some girls have been found to skip school for days during that time of the month. Teachers who called into Love in the Morning in the local morning show for Love FM in Kumasi say they have been providing sanitary pads from their pockets for the needy students to stay in school. Love FM's Erastus Saridonko has been speaking to some of these basic school girls and filed the following report.
It is supposed to be a very private moment for a female. The monthly business signifying womanhood has become a nightmare for a number of basic school girls with no one to provide sanitary pads, the only decent means of containing their periods and providing dignity. Some have been skipping classes for days, but for others, they have resorted to using rags, old newspapers, notebooks, and in some cases, polythene bags.
Sabusumasu, Namanya Message, no Gakacha Mania. I was a bit now, I know, no chance to Mamma, but so in this car, got top of Mama.
When I ask my mom for pad, it gets her crying. She gives me a piece of cloth to use.
Friends are meet neighbors, go now, so go break a lot of us all. Number to us, my phone. Your plans are numbered.
Sometimes when I have my menses, I don't go for break. I don't get up during break periods. I stay at one place until we close. My mom gives us rags or tiro. She says the pads are expensive and she cannot buy it for all of us girls.
First, mom to be my sister,
my mom used to give us pad, but she's no more. My friends avoid me during that period. On the local morning show, Love in the Morning on Love 99.5 FM, some teachers who have been buying sanitary pads for girls in their schools shared their experiences.
Some tell us they rather use fabric, others use tea rolls, and even some go to the extent of staying home with a fear that they may stain themselves when they come to school.
I had one of my girls coming to me that a guy had to sleep with her just because she needed money for a sanitary pad. I also use part of my salary to get them. I am a girl child coordinator there. I buy pads every month for my girls. And then I realized that it was draining me financially. Last Sunday, I went to them because some are boarders and they are like, Madam, your pad is not sound. And it keeps me crying all the time because some of them, they had to encounter being taken advantage of because they need pads.
They are calling for a national policy on sanitary pads for girls in basic schools. Meanwhile, Love FM's David Akwete and the local SMS team have started a campaign to solicit sanitary pads to help needy girls go through that time of the month. Reporting for Joy News, Erastus Asaredonko, Kumasi.
Meanwhile, in August 2020, Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia promised the new Patriotic Party government would scrap the 20% luxury tax on imported sanitary pads if the party won the 2020 elections. The 20% levy exists because sanitary pads are categorized as luxury products per the Ghana Revenue Authority guidelines. The Vice President said the scrapping of the levy will reduce the cost of imported sanitary pads.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will eliminate import duties on sanitary pads to improve health conditions, particularly for girls. It's very important, but what we want to really do is to make sure we produce the sanitary pads in Ghana.
So what happened to that promise? Well, let's do some analysis on this and find some answers. Joining us via phone is Ablaji Fagumashi. She's MP for K2 South and one of the lead voices on this campaign. Thank you very much, madam, for your time here on Joy News Prime. We also have Sylvia joining us. She's with the Girls Guide Association. I'll come to you shortly, Sylvia. But let me start with you, Madam Gumashi. With just a few hours for the presentation of the 2023 budget, are there signs that government will make good on its promise this time round?
Hello there. Good evening.
Good evening, madam.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you very loud and clear.
Okay, I didn't hear you before, so perhaps you may want to repeat your question.
Yes, so my question is, we have just a few hours to the budget presentation, the 2023 budget. You are an MP, I know you've been leading this campaign. Are there signs that this promise of the NPP may find expression in the budget tomorrow? Will they make good on their promise?
Thank you very much. Considering that I am the representative of the people of K2 South, let me use your platform to say good evening to my constituents who are in the whole police station for the past almost 2 weeks now because they changed money at the borders. So that done, let me also congratulate Joy FM for your consistency in helping us promote this idea that if we remove the taxes off sanitary towels, our girls will remain in school, they will live in dignity. Coming to the budget, it is my hope that it will finally be captured in this 2020 November budget, because as you just showed, His Excellency the Vice President has spoken about it. Honorable former Deputy Minister for Gender, Delasowa, who is now the MP for Kwando, has spoken about this copiously. And recently also, Honorable Esla Owusu Akufo has also joined us in championing the cause of the removal of these taxes from sanitary towels. In fact, what infuriates me is the fact that they are called luxury taxes. Luxury taxes and VAT. All on this thing, I'm hoping that tomorrow we will hear clearly what government is doing about these taxes that shoot the price of sanitary towels to levels where our girls are unable to afford them.
Kindly hold on for me, madam. We're also joined by Sylvia Yenchi, and she is the program's commissioner of the Ghana Girls Guide Association. Thank you very much, Sylvia, for joining us. And you have been soliciting support for this campaign. I know you sent letters to some individuals, including the MP for Ablikuma West and the Minister for Communications, Esla Owusu Akufo. Let me just bring listeners up to speed with what her response was to your letter seeking her support for government to scrap the taxes. So there you have it on your screens. It says, this is with reference to your letter on October 4, 2022 on the above subject, and it is heartening to know about efforts of the Ghana Girls Guide Association and other allied groups have put up in advocating for the removal of taxes on sanitary products and materials. Goal 5 of the Sustainable Development Goals enjoins us to, among others, quote, ensure universal access to sexual and reproductive health and reproductive rights. The inability of our girls, particularly those in rural and deprived parts of the country, to access and afford sanitary towels and materials flies, heavily in the face of the SOG 5, and urgent action is required to nip the phenomenon in the bud. It goes on to say, at the Ministry of Communications and Digitalization, our Girls in ICT program brings us into direct contact with adolescent girls from all over the country, and we have encountered at first hand the challenges some of the girls have in accessing these materials. We have since last year distributed sanitary towels and deodorants to all girls who participate in the Girls in ICT program. We cannot overemphasize the need to ensure that sanitary towels and materials are affordable for all girls across the country. You have my utmost support on this cause, and I will be engaging the Minister to explore the available options in getting the desired result. Many thanks. Yours sincerely, Esla Owusu Akufo, MP. So good news there, Sylvia, for the campaign, knowing her position and perhaps influence in government. But has there been subsequent follow-ups since this letter dated November 3?
Okay, thank you very much. Want to say good evening to all your viewers and also all volunteers, and especially to Honorable Jifag Bumashi. She has been with us from the very beginning of this year with our campaign, showing us how to address it and to get Parliament to support our campaign. We're also grateful to Honorable Esla Akufo for her letter. We have received it and we are working on our response, but letters have been sent to so many. All the females in Parliament have received the letter, and we are hoping that as Honorable Esla has taken the lead, they will all also respond and join the campaign. We've sent the letters to the Parliament, Speaker of Parliament, and to all the committees. So Honorable Esla will be hearing from us. We are happy that she personally has experience with young girls in rural areas when it comes to sanitary pads, because sometimes when you are in the city center, you don't appreciate what it means to buy sanitary pad for 15 cedis, 20 cedis, or what it means for a young girl to miss school for 7 days every month because she can't afford a pad. And we just heard from the girl saying that, I mean, when she goes to school, she sits down all day. This girl will probably not be participating in any activity because she's hungry, she can't go out, she's uncomfortable, she's feeling embarrassed, she doesn't know what to do. So she might be physically in class, but we all know that mentally she's out. So
definitely, the effect of this on our girls cannot be overemphasized, as the minister indicated in the letter. But how about the gender minister herself? Any news from her office?
We are still waiting for a response. We are hoping that she has early this year, she acknowledged our letter and said that she'll be contacting the Minister of Finance. We are waiting to see what that discussion would produce, and maybe because it's keeping long, it's probably going to come up with very good news. But yes, she responded earlier this year, but we are in November and we are yet to know the way forward from there.
And Madam Gomashi, just finally, some have said that perhaps it is time to move the campaign to the streets. And the way we have gone about it is not the language the government understands. I guess you're muted, Madam. You'd have to unmute so we can hear you.
You're right about that. I apologize.
Right.
So only yesterday, Honorable Esla and I had a conversation about this matter. And she assured me that she was going to push as hard as she can. But yes, if push comes to shove, we may have to go on the street. If that's the language that government wants, we have the energy, we have the passion, we want our girls to remain in school, and we will, by the grace of God, continue championing for them, and we will be on the street. It's not a difficulty at all. In fact, there are things that we have discussed that I don't have the permission of the coalition to talk about. So we'll leave it there. Indeed, we are not resting on our oars. We are going to keep pushing till it is done.
Right.
Listen, it is not right that we pay for nature. Having your menstruation is not a choice. I've gone past that stage. A lot of us who are championing this cause have gone past that stage, but we have daughters, we have constituents, we have the next generation to look out for. We just need governments to also believe in us as women and keep us in school so we can achieve the aims that we have for ourselves. That's all we are asking. I don't think it's too much, is it?
It isn't too much at all. Thank you very much, Madam, for your time. And until then, our fingers are very much crossed, hoping that this will find expression in tomorrow's budget. I'm grateful for your time. You're watching Joy News Prime with me, Ernest Manu. And we're taking a short break. When we return, we'll bring you some more stories. Please don't go away. Thanks for staying with us here on Joy News Prime. A visually impaired man, Matthew Techi, vowed never to beg to survive, so he ventured into petty trading. Everything seemed perfect, but Ghana's current economic hardship is making it difficult for him to fend for his family in Abunyanya in the Volta region. Matthew's capital was depleted due to the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic and the country's inflation and cedi depreciation. There's more in the following report by Fred Komiasari.
Matthew was born without any disability in Abunyanya, a farming community in the Nkwanta North District of the Oti region. Growing up, he was an education enthusiast who was enrolled in a community school. He, however, had to drop out in the late 1980s when the unfortunate happened.
See, me go school. Me churali kama. Na mama chiri me papa si uma bobola. E ba chiri me hunu. Tana bo be drum me chane me san hunu bo. Na me puso mani ni sa. Na me kunja ira was kumu. Asa.
His dream of going into an education elite was shattered, compelling him to take to farming to raise money for his upkeep. With the support of his elder brother, he braved the odds and fended for himself, his siblings, and his blind mother. Matthew managed to raise some money to set up a corn mill business that only survived for a year.
Namiwo corn mill iso anina jina hanu na sesere asai na ena mede asi hosi misanya sika mbe.
Then I say
Inji block.
He then concentrated on his shop at the community center, which he was operating alongside the corn mill. Matthew trades in a range of merchandise which he travels a deplorable road to buy in the Kpasa market. He was hardly hit by the coronavirus due to the restrictions sanctioned during the peak of the pandemic.
Asa kan mu mo san babiu na obi akwa nkra akoto ade kitiwa obeto a usantimento ni bonu yede na ade no ayabasa na sentimento yeto abeto ha ede na ama ahunchi kakra ba wa ade to mu.
Unfortunately, the effect of the pandemic, financing the funeral of his shop attendants and the current economic hardships, plagued Matthew's business into distress.
Sato na mito adinu na bwebi wa miche wa mikakra na masumani se wonkoto ni membremi wa pasa. Ofru motoki wa kodrunu na kabi jina hosi omusi kana asa na omodi motoki ni ade ya bokano na boy na misumani no akabebi. Na ade na mito no mi sikano aya na yi mitonsa na mito adaka na masinu sesere no mahon se yare no akokakra no misagusu kakra to minima no.
Matthew, however, appealed for financial support to help him stock his shop to increase his profit margin. Fred Kwame Asari, Joy News, Abunyanya.
We have more stories when you log on to myjoyonline.com. I'm Ernest Kojo Manu.